The first warning did not come through a voice. It came as a flicker. One of the feeds inside the assault stack blinked, recovered, then bled into static for half a second before the image returned. In that half second, every man in the file knew the same thing. Somewhere below the rock, something had just woken up. Keep moving. The column pressed tighter against the slope, boots scraping loose shale in the dark. Above them, the ridgeline north of Tehran was a black saw edge under a moonless sky. Below it, hidden beneath reinforced concrete, soil and blast doors, sat the node they had crossed borders to erase. An underground radar and surveillance coordination facility feeding air defense traffic, tracking grids, and regional signal relay into a wider network that did not end at the city. It was not a missile silo. It was not a headquarters built for parade maps and polished floors. It was something more dangerous for a short war and more valuable for a long one. It listened. It sorted. It connected launch crews, radar stations, observation posts, and mobile batteries that could vanish by dawn. Left intact, it could turn a quiet air corridor into a killing zone within minutes. That was why the Rangers were here. Not because the mission needed numbers. It needed compression, discipline, a unit that could move from silence to violence and back to silence before the wider battle space understood what had happened. In this fictional file, a task element from the 75th Ranger Regiment had been chosen for the part of the war that did not announce itself. Their window was narrow. Their footprint had to stay smaller than the damage they intended to leave behind. Hours earlier, far from the objective, the operation had looked clean on the table. Sand-colored relief model. Infrared overhead stills. Known vents, service access, outer security pattern, generator location, probable hardened command room beneath the main radar relay chamber. 4 hours and 35 minutes from wheels up to final exfiltration. Tight, but within the margin if nothing drifted and nobody froze. Nobody expected it to remain clean. In the final staging area, under blackout discipline and red task lights, the men had checked each other in near silence. Gloves, comms, charges, medical, spare batteries wrapped to kill the rattle. One team carried the disruption package meant to blind the facility before it died. Another carried the heavier breach tools in sections, weight distributed across shoulders already marked by straps. Faces stayed flat. No speeches. The only sound was fabric, metal, and the low pulse of aircraft systems somewhere beyond the dark. Their platoon leader had studied the last update with one gloved hand on the side of the vehicle, saying almost nothing. The target's outer ring had not changed. The problem was deeper. The intelligence picture inside the mountain had gaps. Too many sealed corridors. Too many reinforced partitions. They knew what the site did. They did not know exactly how it had been reconfigured in the last 72 hours. That uncertainty followed them all the way in. Insertion dropped them beyond the immediate security cordon, where the terrain did the first part of the concealment and the last part of the punishment. Dry gullies, broken rock, cold dust hanging low over the ground. Every step had to be quiet, but speed still mattered. Time on a raid like this did not pass evenly. 10 minutes could disappear in movement. 5 seconds at the wrong door could destroy the whole plan. Ahead, the objective did not look like a fortress. That was the deception built into sites like this. A restricted utility compound cut into rising ground. 2 service buildings. Fenced perimeter. Communications mast. A maintenance road curving in from the south. Nothing on the surface that matched the significance of what sat under it. Then the thermal glass picked up the first sign. A sentry where the pattern said there should be none. He stood just off the service track, nearly invisible against a retaining wall, weapon low, head turning in tight, practice scans. A second shape moved farther back, then a third near the outer structure above the buried access ramp. Security had been reinforced or shifted without warning. Either way, the Rangers were now approaching a target whose skin no longer matched the intelligence packet. The order came soft and immediate. Adjust lanes. No halt. No debate. They split around the slope like dark water around stone. One element slid left to hold the observation angle. Another descended toward the outer compound, using the shadow of the wall and the noise of a distant generator to cover the final distance. A drone feed hovered high and blind to anyone below, painting motion signatures across tablets held low against chest rigs. The seconds got thinner. The first man dropped without a shot. The second almost got a word out before a gloved hand sealed the sound and dragged him behind concrete. The third turned too late, caught between recognition and action, and the silence broke for the first time in a hard suppressed burst that snapped off the wall and vanished into the night. No alarm yet. But now the mission was moving on borrowed concealment. The outer gate was not the real entrance. The real entrance was hidden inside a service bay where heavy equipment could be driven in under cover of routine logistics. When the Rangers reached it, they found the first real obstacle. A reinforced internal shutter already lowered, thicker than expected, wired into a lock assembly designed to delay exactly this kind of intrusion. The breach team went to work under red-filtered light. Hands moved fast, not frantic. Charges seated. Wire checked. Hinge point marked. The platoon leader scanned the dark road, then the ridgeline, then the signal board clipped to his kit. The disruption team was already tuning against the target's internal architecture, preparing to sever the site's ability to talk even before the main chambers went down. A click in the headset. A single phrase from Overwatch. Vehicle movement. South approach. There it was. The next problem arriving on rubber and diesel. No one pulled off the door. The security element shifted, muzzles aligning through narrow sectors between concrete posts. The compound felt suddenly smaller. Wind pushed dust over the track. Somewhere beyond the wall, an engine note rose, slowed, then kept coming. The detonation hit like a hammer underwater. The shutter folded inward in a cough of flame and metal fragments, and the Rangers surged through before the dust could settle, lights cutting hard white cones through the smoke. The transition from open night to underground concrete was instant and brutal. Heat, echo, chemical dust in the throat. Tight corridors descending at angles meant to break blast pressure and deny clean lines of fire. Inside, the facility finally reacted. An alarm chopped through the hall. Doors slammed deeper in the structure. Boots pounded on grated floors below. The first defenders appeared at the bend of a descending passage, and were driven back in a storm of controlled fire that sparked across railings and showered concrete chips into the air. The Rangers kept moving, one wall, then the other, crossing angles, clearing side rooms, marking sealed compartments for follow-on charges. Down another level, the place opened. Banks of screens, relay racks, signal boards, operators abandoning stations, some reaching for sidearms, others frozen in the flash and roar of the entry. One team peeled off to secure data modules and pull whatever could be taken fast. Another drove toward the central control corridor where the hardened rooms were likely buried. The objective was not bodies. It was blindness, silence, collapse. Then the feed died again. Not from damage, from resistance. The disruption package had met something unexpected in the network architecture. An isolated backup circuit, shielded and redundant, still transmitting. On a monitor near the command node, one ugly bar of signal remained alive. That meant some part of the facility was still pushing data outward. Maybe not cleanly, but enough. And then the whole raid bent sideways. From a service passage the planners had tagged as low probability, a reserve security team counterattacked into the rear of the stack. Fire cracked through the corridor from behind, sharp and close, round slamming sparks off pipe brackets and punching dust from concrete seams. One Ranger dropped to a knee, hit in the plate and driven sideways into the wall. Another spun, returned fire, and dragged him clear by his harness while the rear security men collapsed into a hasty block. For a moment the underground complex became two fights at once. Forward, the assault element was still driving toward the command chamber. Rearward, the security team was holding a narrowing corridor against defenders who knew the interior better and were now trying to cut the Americans off from their exit route. Comms layered over each other. Status calls. Ammunition checks. A medic's voice flat and quick. The smell of burnt propellant thickened in the stale air. The platoon leader made the decision in seconds. No withdrawal. Split the force. Seal the rear threat. Finish the kill. Move. A shaped charge went on a side junction behind them. When the defenders pressed again, the junction collapsed in a blast of dust, rebar, and shattered conduit, choking the counterattack lane with debris. Not permanent. Just enough. Just long enough. Up front, the Rangers found the final door. It was buried behind an angled blast partition with manual overrides and a dead electronic panel, the kind of design meant to survive power loss and direct shock. There would be no clean bypass. No elegant entry. The team leader looked once at the remaining signal feed on the portable monitor and nodded. Burn through. The charge struck with a flat, monstrous crack. The door buckled, hung for half a second, then fell inward in a cloud of insulation, dust, and metallic smoke. Beyond it lay the heart of the site. The command chamber was deeper, colder, louder with machinery than anything above it. Circular consoles. Hardened server cabinets bolted into the floor. A central wall alive with tracking displays, some still flickering through cascading faults. Two technicians tried to pull storage canisters from a rack. A guard near the far console got halfway to his rifle before the room was taken from him. Then the disruption package went live. Not dramatic. Not cinematic in the obvious way. No giant beam. No theatrical pulse. Just a tight sequence of planted devices, directional bursts, and overloads tailored to ruin what mattered most. Screens whitened. Boards sparked. Cooling fans screamed, then died. Across the chamber, sealed cabinets popped under internal pressure, spitting smoke into the room. Data links choked. Signal paths collapsed. The radar coordination spine feeding outward from the mountain began to unravel in real time. The demolition team moved immediately to the secondary work: structural kill points, power nodes, relay trunks, ventilation shafts. Each placement mattered. They were not trying to flatten the whole hill. They were trying to make the facility unusable, dangerous to repair, and uncertain in its own failure. A tremor ran through the chamber as the first delayed charges deeper in the relay level detonated. Dust fell from seams in the ceiling. Emergency lights cut red. Package set. Move. Exfiltration never feels like victory. Feels like subtraction. Men counting what is still with them while the walls begin to die. They retraced through corridors now filling with smoke and drifting insulation. The wounded ranger was back on his feet, stiff but moving. Behind them, the buried complex groaned with the sound of systems cooking off out of sequence. Above, the outer compound was no longer quiet. The vehicle from the south had reached the gate too late to prevent the breach, but not too late to flood the surface with new uncertainty. More engines now. More lights beyond the fence. Someone outside had understood that something catastrophic was happening underground. The Rangers emerged into cold night and rotor wash far in the distance, though not close enough yet to feel safe. Security teams pushed outward, cutting through the edge of the compound and into the broken terrain they had used on the approach. Behind them, the mountain vented a column of dark smoke through hidden shafts, then shuddered again as the main demolition train found its marks. The surface structures sagged first. Then a deep internal collapse rolled under the ground like a passing train. Concrete split. A section of the service bay folded into itself. The mast above the compound tilted, trembled, and vanished into dust. For a few seconds, everything held still. No cheering. No raised voices. Just men moving hard through rock and darkness while the target died behind them. By the time the extraction aircraft pulled them out of the shadow of the ridge, the facility near Tehran was no longer a functioning radar and surveillance node. Its feeds were dead. Its relays were gone. Its command room was a furnace under broken stone. Somewhere across the region, operators looking at their scopes and channels would already be seeing holes where certainty had been an hour earlier. But on the outbound leg, one of the signal specialists caught something before shutting down his kit. A burst transmission. Brief. Narrow. Not from the destroyed complex, but from somewhere east of it, farther out in the dark. A surviving relay, or a shadow node that had never been in the file at all. For less than 2 seconds it mirrored traffic patterns from the dead site, then disappeared. No one said much after that. The aircraft kept moving west through black air. Below, the city remained a spread of distant light, silent from altitude, giving nothing away. Yet the network they had cut had not gone completely blind. Somewhere beyond the shattered mountain, another set of eyes had opened, just long enough to see the lights go out. And somewhere on another ridge, or behind another buried steel door, someone was already deciding what tonight meant. The base was gone. The corridor it had been guarding was not. And in the space left by its silence, something else had started to move.